10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Growing older, what's next?
With Mark and Bill and Laura.
I wish they'd whisper my name. Laura gets her name whispered. I like that. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, good
We
morning.
could do like a with Bill and Laura.
I like that. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm at the Growing Boulder office here at COVID Central. Bill is socially distanced at his home. Mike Nannis, show yourself, Mike. Mike is also in the office with me in another part of the office, and Laura is at her home in New York. And Laura, the tables have been turned. When we started the show, we talked about the fact that you were in the epicenter. We worried about you incessantly, and son of a gun, now Florida's the place you really don't want to be.
Oh my gosh, I've been watching your numbers. It's scary. How are you guys handling this? Are people following the rules? Are you wearing masks or you're staying in? No.
Florida is not a rule following state. I have to tell you that it is frightening. Because we're pushing forward. I mean, that's what our governor has said, that, damn the science, we are pushing forward. And, I don't think any of us disagree that kids need to be in school, but, we got to do it safely. And that's the big issue. That's the big controversy right now is, where are these schools, the 67 different districts in the state of Florida, where are they getting the funding to do it right? And Laura and I were talking earlier, we both heard an interview on NPR this morning with the head of the teachers union, Teachers Association here in the state of Florida. They're not happy. There's going to be a major controversy within the next few weeks.
Well, we know that we know the germ is airborne, the virus is airborne, and you're going to put 50 kids in a classroom with a teacher? I don't know about that plan.
Yeah, and it's not just schools. We've been under lockdown for so long. People just don't know what to do. You really shouldn't be going out to eat still. And, we were talking, Mark, yesterday about, my son, Evan, and I, he's going crazy not going to the gym, but the gyms are open and they're charging you still. So, you feel like, should I go? Should I not? But really, when you think of the numbers and you think of the impact, you go, why would I risk it?
Yeah, it's really crazy. And there really is no great solution right now. We're all wearing masks. Not everyone in Florida does. Laura, what's it like up there?
Well, our town here is known for its 4th of July celebration, and it took everything I had not to go down to the beach and watch these fireworks. They're unbelievable what you can see from there, because you can see Connecticut and you can see Westchester and you see it all from there. But I have to tell you, I took a look earlier in the day and the beach was slammed. It was full of people. I could hear them cheering from my house. That's not cool. They were packed together. I don't know how we get through this if we don't follow the rules.
Well, it's a discussion that automatically turns into a controversy. So let's move on. We're very excited about today's show, folks. Let's show you who we got. It's the interview that we wanted but didn't think we could get. Well, we in fact got it. Rock photographer Henry Diltz, definitely the right guy. A musician with a camera who is friends with other musicians at the right time. We're talking about the mid-'60s and in the right place, LA's Laurel Canyon. Coming up in just a moment, a really interesting interview with a very exciting guy. But as always, we've got a video or two to show you. And, the first video that we want to show you is a guy by the name of Al Blaschke. He lives in Georgetown, Texas. And Al took his very first skydive at 100 years old. That was 3 years ago. And that's not what this story is about today. This is Al recently at 103 and a half years old, taking his second ever skydive from 14,000 feet in Texas. And he didn't do it to celebrate turning 103. He did it because his twin grandsons, 22 years old, are both graduating from college, and he wanted to celebrate that moment with them. So he a 103-year-old twisted the arms of two 22-year-olds and convinced them to take their first ever skydive with him. And by the way, what you're seeing right now is a new Guinness World Record, the oldest human being ever to take a skydive. What do you think about that, guys?
I don't know. I think he's incredibly brave. I could never do this, and I'm sort of a risk taker. Have you ever skydived, either of you?
I have. Yes.
You're asking the wrong people, Laura. I'll jump in here. Yeah, Mark has done so many amazing things, and one day we'll do an entire show on that. But you know what that guy did? That guy set the bar a little bit higher for what life can be like at any age. What is the lesson he's showing those 22-year-olds? Heck, what's the lesson he's showing us? That you can do what you want to do at any age. You don't have to give up your dreams. You don't have to stop having adventures. He's proof that you can go out there and do anything. And I challenge everybody, please go to growingbolder.com and look up skydivers over 60. There are so many of them. He's not the exception. There are a lot of people that are living large, finding adventures. Skydivers over 80, we did a story, and Joe Kittinger, the greatest of them all, the most amazing parachute jump ever. But the point of all of this is that no matter how old you are, be involved with your family, be involved with life, have adventures, be like, what was his name, Mark? Be like Al.
Yep. No, I agree with both of you. We're not trying to get people to skydive. We're trying to get people to live life and take risk that might be, joining a group, asking someone out on a date, taking a new class, going back to school. Those are the kind of risks that everybody can take. And we just all have to, I think, figure out what's right for us. All right. The other video is a moment of awe. And here's the setup. The only thing you need, Watson, who's a golden retriever, was called out for stealing his brother Kiko's food, and then he was asked to show remorse.
Hey, Watson, do you understand when I'm talking to you? You do? Okay, so I gave you a chewy. I gave Kiko a chewy. You ate Kiko's chewy. So what do we say when we steal someone else's chewy? What do we say? Do you know? Yes, we say we're sorry. We say we're sorry. You're a good boy, Watson. You're a good boy, Kiko.
Is that just a trick? He did seem as though he was showing remorse, didn't he?
I think there's so much going on in our pets' minds and all animals' minds, so much more than we even know about. And, actually, Mark, I don't know if you know this, but I'm working on some research for a story for the magazine about animal communication, because we really are just at the tip of the iceberg of what our pets are thinking.
And you see those things, and it's amazing to watch and hope that, yeah, Mark, like you said, hopefully maybe the dog is showing a little remorse. I don't know. Maybe instead of going to a regular marriage counselor, we should all go see Caesar Milan or somebody like that to get to the essence of what true emotion is all about.
Yeah, that was fun. All right, let's move on to the big show, the big interview today, because there is no question that, the mid-'60s was really one of the most impactful periods of our lifetimes, and not just on the music scene, but culturally as well. And all of that is really being celebrated this summer. If you haven't seen the documentary Echo in the Canyon, it shares the story of the Byrds, the Beach Boys, the Doors, the Mamas and the Papas, Crosby, Stills, Nash, many others, all living right near one another and influencing one another, and actually giving birth to what we now know as the singer-songwriter. 1966 is also the year that Bruce Brown's seminal surf classic Endless Summer was released. I think I saw it 10 times that year. And now that whole era is being celebrated by the Morrison Hotel Gallery with a new virtual exhibit of some of the most iconic photographs of that era. And, if only we knew someone who could get us an interview with the legendary Henry Diltz, who not only shot the cover for the Doors' Morrison Hotel album, but, really, Bill, just about every other important musician of that era.
And Mark, these are those records that we'd put them on the turntable and listen to them, and we'd hold that album cover and stare at it for hours. Remember when when Sweet Baby James came out with James Taylor. Oh, it had the song Fire and Rain on it. This is the album that launched him. It was his second record, first for Warner Brothers. How cool does he look there? He looks like, man, you wanted to be him. But a lot of people forget that when this album came out, he was essentially homeless at the time. But this photograph made him look like just the ideal guy. And how about Crosby, Stills, and Nash? Remember this album? This was their first album. This photo was taken before the band even had a name. They happened upon this old condemned house, the couch in front, and they go, of course, why not? Let's take a photo there. Sweet Judy Blue Eyes was on this album, but you can see the way Henry Diltz's mind works. It's capture people in their element. How about Jimmy Webb, the great album El Mirage? This was his sixth album, and a lot of people say it was his best to the time. And this was shot in the Mojave Desert. And like you said, Mark, we do happen to know someone who knows Henry Diltz and has known him even longer than the amazing Jimmy Webb himself. And that's you, Laura. How did you come to meet this amazing icon of rock and roll?
Oh, Henry Diltz did a documentary about his album art, which it was. I mean, we all looked at those, like you said, we looked at those album covers, and I was fortunate enough to interview him back in and on television in New York. And we kind of stayed in touch. And then when I met Jimmy, of course, he and Henry had been friends for decades. And I have always admired Henry's work because, Bill, you know, he's really like the Jane Goodall of musicians. He's said that, and I love that quote because he watches the musicians in their natural habitat. And we're going to hear more about that now. I gave Henry a call. I said, hey, can you do Growing Bolder? What's next? Now, the problem is he sleeps late. Couldn't get him to get up early enough to do this live. So we spoke to Henry late last week and got this interview. And there he is, Henry Diltz, my favorite photographer. Hello. Hey, we're back on the East Coast and we're hearing so much about Laguna Beach in California, Southern California. How are you all doing now at your endless summer and the COVID?
Yeah, well, we're staying in and hiding from the bugs, doing a good job of that. It's summer outside and, but we're inside pretty much.
Oh, yeah, it's important to stay safe, of course.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm so glad you put that Endless Summer exhibit together. I was thinking about that because so many people are inside and we're having the opportunity to see these incredible images of summer. What made you decide to do this?
Well, that's our gallery, the Morrison Hotel Gallery. And, we, at this point, after 20 years, we have 125 photographers now. So when we try to do a show to include everybody, we try to pick, kind of a topic, a subject that we can draw from everybody's pictures. So we thought, since it's summer outside and we can't really go outside very much, we'll bring it in to everybody. So we picked that as a subject for this virtual show. And, if we had this show in one of our three galleries, we're in New York, LA, and Maui, we could only put maybe 50 or 60 pictures on the wall. But with this show, we can put many more because the walls go on forever.
You're right, in the interweb.
Yeah.
And they're all, we could purchase these incredible images.
Yeah, sure. Our gallery, all of those 125 photographers have their pictures on our website if you search by name or by artist, and they're all for sale. Yeah.
Hey, Henry, you know what? I always wonder, like, how you got the confidence of all of these musicians that you have always shot all these many, many years. How come you were accepted so readily into their world?
Well, it's because I was a musician before I picked up a camera. In the folk days, the early 60s, folk music was the music of the land. And I sang in a group called the Modern Folk Quartet. And we toured across the country many times, playing at colleges and clubs and TV shows. And musicians are it's kind of a little club, it's like an exclusive little club. And I mean, all of my friends really were musicians. So, and when I picked up a camera, they didn't really notice that. I was still, Henry, the banjo player, I guess. And I just, I knew these people for years before I ever had a camera. and so therefore I could hang out. You know, I was one of the guys, you know, that and girls that we hung out with all the time. And that
So
worked
it's-
for me because I like to document. You know, I'm not the kind of photographer that gets everybody, you know, posed and puts lights in a backdrop. I don't produce a picture. I just want to look at people and see what they're doing, and when they don't really know it, take a picture of it.
So that is the magic of your photos, because you're not a studio guy. You're not taking someone in and setting up a shot. It's really the musician in their own world.
Exactly.
That's why they work.
Yeah, I'm not a producer. I'm more, well, you know, they use the word fly on the wall. My Chinese animal, I urge everyone to find out their Chinese animal. It's very telling. I happen to be a tiger, and a tiger likes to hide and watch the other animals. So it's not so much that I was hiding, you know, I was hiding in plain sight. But I'm very curious about people. I always have been, and I like to observe. I'm an observer. And so when we'd be sitting around somewhere talking, I would just kind of sneak a little photo and, you know, and not make a big deal of it. And that's the way I like to do it.
I think one of my favorites of yours is, because just the purity of it, is the Sweet Baby James photo.
Yes.
The one, and I think we have that one to show that you shared with us. I mean, that look on his face is just complete innocence, and it's just gorgeous. Tell us how that happened.
Well, you know, all these pictures start with a phone call. I'm in my kitchen in Laurel Canyon, and the phone rang. It was Peter Asher, who had just produced James's album. And he said, could you come to my house and photograph this guy? We just did an album. And so I went and met him, and we took photos in the living room. And I said, we need to go outside somewhere. So we went to a friend's sort of a musical commune where a bunch of musicians lived. And there were little barns and little sheds around there that were good for backdrops. And it was a very quiet afternoon. I mean, we talked a little bit, but he's a very kind of a quiet guy, you know, and he was quiet that day. And he's very tall, and he leaned on that post, which was about as tall as I was. He leaned on it, and it just looked so great. And I took that picture. And then actually, I was supposed to take black and white photos for publicity, which that is. But it looked so good to me that I said, wait a minute, let me get my color camera, because I wanted to get a color shot so I could put it in my slideshows that I would have on the weekends. And the manager saw the color picture and showed it to the record company, and they used that for an album cover. So it was an accidental album cover. I really was supposed to be shooting publicity photos. But, you know, and then when the album came out, I just loved that song, Sweet Baby James. When I photograph people for their album covers, I usually haven't heard the album because it's usually not finished yet. And so when I heard that, I think that's, you know, an anthem, it's an anthem. It's so beautiful, Sweet Baby James. And I sang it to both of my little kids when they were little babies to put them to sleep.
Oh, you know, and you've told me these stories that you actually would go on tour, like for months. You would just be out on the road in the tour bus, on the airplanes with like, we're talking the big guys here.
Well, yeah, big guys and little guys, little airplanes and big airplanes. Usually, yeah, it could be a few months. I was on tour with the Love and Spoonful in '66, and that was for 2 or 3 months, off and on, flying around the country in a little 2-engine plane. I was on tour with the Monkees. That was maybe more like a month. And then I would go out like a couple of weeks with the Eagles or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the Turtles, just a lot of groups, you know. And it's fun to photograph them, you know, in an airport and a van and backstage and sound check and all. There's many opportunities to get candid photos that way.
I love the way you just toss off these things, Laurel Canyon and the Monkees and this and that. You lived it. You lived it. And I know my pals, Mark and Bill, are big fans of many of the groups that you're talking about. So we were hoping that maybe you could give us some of the background behind some of these iconic photos. And I know that's a word my husband doesn't like me to always use, iconic, but in this case, these are photos we all know.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny thing because, I mean, they're all moments in my life, right? I mean, I look at them all, it puts me back in those places where and these people are musical heroes to me. I mean, I love all of their music. So I was like a little kid sneaking under the circus tent to hang out with these people. And then years later, they become iconic photos. But to me, it was just my everyday life. And just how lucky I was to be right in the middle of Laurel Canyon, right at the start of this renaissance of singer-songwriters. It was a flowering of, and it all happened because we had folk music. You never write a folk song. That's a 100-year-old song that a miner or a cowboy or a sailor sang. And then when the Beatles played Ed Sullivan, all the folk groups saw them and said, wow, that is great music. She loves you. Yeah. We want to sing that kind of a song. And so people started writing their own songs because that's what the Beatles were doing. And that's what Bob Dylan was doing. And then you had this flowering renaissance of singer-songwriters. And how great that was because, they're very interesting people like, Jackson Browne and Jimmy Webb and Joni Mitchell and Stephen Stills, Neil Young. All these people are very interesting people. And to hear their own take on life, it's their own poetry, their own ideas, their own heartbreak or whatever it is in their songs became just a really wonderful thing. And that was the sea change that happened in the music industry, I would say, in the late 60s, early 70s.
Right guy, right place, right time. Folks, we're talking with Henry Diltz, if you just joined us, who really is, one of the greatest rock photographers of all time. And as we can hear now, really a rock historian. And Henry, you've taken so many great shots. Can you tell us a little bit about, the iconic, again, Doors shot for the Morrison Hotel that became the cover for that album, because I think you named your gallery after it. How did that come about?
We did, yeah. Well, the Doors called us one day. I was working with a lovely guy named Gary Burden, who was a graphic artist. So we would plan these little adventures and photograph groups, and then he would go through the photos and pick the one to the cover. So anyway, the Doors called us one day. We had just done Crosby, Stills, Nash's album, and they saw that and said, we want you to do our next album cover. So we went over and met with them in their little office, and it was Jim and Ray Manzarek. And we said, do you have a title? And they said, no. We said, well, do you have some idea of what you want on your cover? No. And then and we're going, well, and Ray Manzarek said, my wife Dorothy and I were driving through downtown LA the other day, and we saw this old funky hotel, that Morrison Hotel on the window. And we thought, wow, that sounds great. And we went right down and saw it, came back a week later with the group. And the guy behind the desk in the lobby wouldn't let us photograph in there without the owner's permission. So I thought, well, we can get them to stand in front of the window. They can't stop us then. And as we stood outside, I saw a light go on in the lobby, and I looked through the window and I said, that's the elevator light. The guy left the desk. Nobody's in there. Quick, run in there, you guys. And they ran in there for a couple of minutes, one roll of film, and we got out of there. And that's how that one happened.
Boy, that's great. You mentioned the Crosby, Stills, Nash album, which was right before that. Another happy accident. They're sitting on some beat up old couch in front of a building.
Yeah, the same thing.
I was going to say, Henry, you tell an amazing story how you thought, okay, maybe that would be a good shot. But the record company goes, no, it's Crosby, Stills, Nash. And the photograph, which we'll take a look at, is Nash, Stills, and Crosby.
Something like that. Yes. We were driving around West Hollywood just taking, once again, publicity photos. They were doing their first album, and they didn't have any pictures at all. And so as we drove around, we found this little house, little wooden house with a couch out in front. We jumped out of Gary's old Ford station wagon. They jumped on the couch and we took a bunch of pictures. Later, we looked at the slides when we got them back from Kodak. Took a couple days to get them developed. And everybody said, wow, that would make a good album cover, even though we weren't trying to take an album cover. And they said, but unfortunately, we just decided to call ourselves Crosby, Stills, Nash. And in there, it's Nash, Stills, and Crosby. So we thought, well, maybe we'll flip the photo over, and then Stephen will be playing the guitar left-handed. So that won't. So I thought, well, hey, let's just go back. You jump on the couch, bang, bang, bang. We'll take it in 5 minutes. So we all got in Gary's Ford station wagon and drove back a couple days later, and the house was gone. There was nothing there, an empty lot. So they used it like it was. They're backwards.
You know, just amazing stories. And I have to ask you because, I was of age in 1969. I could have gone to Woodstock. I love Jimi Hendrix, and I know you took a picture of Jimmy. You were actually at Woodstock. Can you tell us about that photo?
Yeah, the one of Jimmy.
Yeah, on stage.
Yeah, in the morning, Monday morning. He was supposed to close the show Sunday night, but they were so backed up, he didn't go on until dawn Monday morning. And what was so amazing was, you know, these guys came out in the early morning hours wearing those bright colored headbands. And it was like, whoa, because we'd all been up pretty much for 3 days. And then he played a couple songs, and then he started playing this solo, beautiful, pristine version of the Star Spangled Banner. And then putting in all those sounds like airplanes and machine guns. And it was like, whoa. We were going, wait a minute, wait, what? Because as I've said before, we were it was a field full of almost 500,000 peace and love hippies who were against the war and therefore against the government. And here was Jimmy playing that sort of official song. And at first it was like, well, what is he playing that for? And then the next instant you would think, wait a minute, that's our song. He's taking it back for us, reclaiming it. I wish he was around to really ask him exactly what was on his mind. I've talked to his conga player. That just last year we had the 50th anniversary of Woodstock, and his conga player said, "Oh yeah, he rehearsed that for a couple of weeks. He would rehearse and he wanted to get it perfect." So he was definitely making a statement, and he was in the army. So he was a military guy. I don't know what he was trying to bring together there. I think it was that's our song too, and we're one nation.
And we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Henry, did you know at that moment, because so many people who were there say they just knew that he was going to change music. Things were going to be different now once Jimi Hendrix played that. Did you feel that vibe in the middle of all of those people? Could you tell?
Well, I'd seen him play before with the Mamas and Papas, and I'd seen him at Monterey Pop. So I knew he was that nobody could play like him. He could make it talk, and nobody will ever play like him. So I wasn't surprised about that. What was really surprising was that he played that song in the middle of this kind of what you could call kind of a protest against, the war. Everybody there was sort of totally against going to a foreign land and killing strangers for your country, and for what reason. But when these moments happen, I never think, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, we'll be talking about this moment. You never feel that, it's just an amazing moment, and you just go, wow, it's just, yeah, I never do think someday I'll remember this moment. I'm just busy looking and drinking it in,
Here's something else about you, Henry Diltz, and I think your photos speak for themselves. They're amazing. They will stand the test of time. They will always be fascinating. But you know what's even cooler is you. Are you actually, listen, our show is called Growing Bolder, and it's about people who, as they age, they look for new adventures. They love life. They have energy. They're curious. You may be the coolest over 80-year-old in the country. what is it that starts your engine in the morning, and how do you look at age to where it doesn't slow you down?
I think age is just a number, really. It's what you feel, I mean, I feel, 20, I guess. I think life is a big adventure. It's a wonderful experience. And I sort of, thank the creator, thank all that is, whatever you want to call him, it, her, thank the universe every day. I wake up, First I wake up and I wake up all my cells in my body because, we have millions and millions of little living cells that make up our body. And I say, hey, good morning, you guys. A shout out to the cells, and I kind of quiver all over feeling the cells and position myself in the day. And I do a little wake up, the sort of chakra awakening exercise that I learned from Carolyn Mace, this new age guru lady. And then I get up and take my 27 vitamins and minerals and supplements, and I take enzymes and I take amino acids and I take, mitochondrial things that feed your little cell engines. And I do all that. And I try to eat right. And, I don't know. I don't know.
That should be your next book.
Yeah, it should be his next book. The other thing you do, Henry, that I love is that you continue. You just keep moving, and you do something called grabbing beauty. You and I were talking about the other day, that you continue to do that each and every day.
Yes, you and I were talking on the phone the other day, and we were talking about what photographs are. I mean, there's these moments, and I said, I think of myself as an existentialist. I live in the moment because the moment is the only real thing there is. I mean, the past is a memory, the future is a hope or a dream or a plan, but we're living right in the moment. And so I said, these photographs, it sort of bothered me one day years ago when I thought, well, it doesn't sit well with me that I'm known for capturing these past moments when I really want to say, we're over here now, we're in the moment now, and these are all past moments. And then somebody said, but what you're doing is bringing the past moments into the present. And I went, okay, I can live with that, So as I was talking to Laura about this, it reminded me of a poem by Jared Manley Hopkins. A friend of mine used to recite this, Judy Henske, a blues singer. And so I took it out and read it, and it's about grabbing beauty. It says, how to keep. Is there any? Is there none such, nowhere known some, bow or brooch or braid or brace, lace, latch or catch or key, to keep back beauty? Keep it, beauty, 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 from vanishing away. Wow. I love that poem. And it just popped into my mind, because we were talking about grabbing moments and so maybe the answer to that poem, yes, there is a way, and maybe a photograph or a movie. I mean, you do capture beauty, and I mean, what's interesting to me is that I've lived my life, seen all these great moments, taken photos of it, not so much as a photographer, but more as just a guy who wanted to kind of remember what he saw. And then they've become, I mean, I never knew I was going to share them with the world. And 50 years later, it would be some kind of a historical archive. That never occurred to me. It was just every day was another day,
Well, you've taken some of the most famous rock photographs there are. I mean, I'm thinking Paul McCartney, photos with Paul and Linda, and photos with the Eagles. I mean, these are photos everybody recognizes, and that you take 100 photos a day to this day.
I do. I have a little pocket camera that I carry around, and I take easily 100 pictures. I mean, when I'm down in Laguna, I'm taking pictures of hummingbirds, and birds at the bird feeder, and we have tulips on the dining room table. I take close-ups of the tulips, and just wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be framing things up because I have a framing Jones, and I like to look at the world that way. I like to frame things up, and whether it's a fellow musician or some birds at the bird feeder, it's kind of the same to me in a way. You know what I mean? I'm framing up stuff. And then, it's just a lucky accident that I was around these people that nowadays we all care about so much.
Well, let's look at a couple of those photos that Laura mentioned as we wrap this up. We do have Paul McCartney and Linda, another very, very sweet photo. And Jacob, let's just push through. We've got that.
Let me just say, the reason I took that is because I met her one day at a photo lab in New York. I met Linda. She was developing her film, and I was, and we met, and we became friends. Years later, she married Paul, and she invited me out to their beach house one day to take photos they needed for a songbook. And then she said, well, we want to see them right away because we want to use one for the cover of Life magazine. Wow, because that was kind of the holy grail of photographers, in the 60s and 70s, be on the cover of Life magazine, your photo on the cover. So that's how that happened.
This is the quality of the imagery, folks, that you can get from this virtual gallery. And let's show everybody how they can find this virtual gallery at the Morrison Hotel Gallery. And it's not just these beautiful rock and roll photographs. It really captures the zeitgeist of the era, if you will. Some very, very interesting people. And let me just say this, Henry, thank you so much for the moments that you captured and you have shared with us. But sir, without your camera, you still have given us one moment after another in this interview. We're blessed that you had your camera, but Lord knows you don't need it. You are a very interesting dude in and of your own right, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. My pleasure.
Aw, love you, Henry.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. Pleasure talking to you, and let's keep the adventure going, huh?
That's right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So that's Henry Diltz. Keep grabbing beauty, Mr. Diltz. He is just amazing, isn't he? You can see the photos of Endless Summer, these gorgeous images. If you're socially distancing, maybe staying away from the beach, here's your chance to see it at MorrisonHotelGallery.com, and I believe some of them are even for purchase. There's 125 photographers involved in this incredible exhibit. So why don't you go take a look? Great way to see some art this summer.
What an amazing guy. I took notes the whole time. Life is a big adventure. I have a Framing Jones shout out to the cells. And I mean that sincerely. Without his photographs, I could talk to this guy forever.
And here's the best part about that, if I can, Laura, too, that what happened this week, we all watched Ringo celebrate his 80th birthday, and we're sitting there with our jaws down because there's nothing that says 80 about the guy. Henry Diltz, he's going to be 82 in like just a month. He's amazing. So, man, what a great example that age, come on. Be like Henry, be like Ringo.
Bill, I don't know if you saw my eyes get big when you said in the interview that he's 81, because I had no idea. I think of him as ageless. Just before lockdown in early March, we were traipsing around Santa Monica Pier in the sand, taking photos under the pier, under the boardwalk with him. Nothing stops him. And I think a lot of that has to do with his incredible spirituality. You hear him talk about that. It gives him a lot of strength and energy. Thanks for indulging me and letting us have this great interview with him.
Are you kidding? Thank you for setting it up. You're going to have to get us another cool one of these days. Let's wrap this up with a meme, and then I want to share what's on my mind. The meme, I think appropriately so, is a quote by Jimi Hendrix: "When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." And I'll just leave it at that. And now what's on my mind today? It's just what we just saw. We saw 103-year-old Al go skydiving. We saw 81-year-old Henry Diltz inspiring us all with this passion for life. And, I'm not sure if everybody understands this, but I think Bill and I have probably done more interviews with active centenarians than maybe any two people in the world, at least interviews on camera or on our radio. And we're fascinated with active centenarians because of the lifestyle that they live. And let's just acknowledge this. There are more centenarians alive now than ever before. I think there's about 130,000 in this country. There will be over 1 million within the next 25 years, and many of them are not active. Science and medicine will conspire to keep us alive a lot longer than many of us want to be alive. But those who do continue to live lives of passion and purpose, are an example for all of us. And this is what we have learned in our discussions with active centenarians. They are as diverse a group as there can be. Black, white, Hispanic, all religions, all ethnicities, all socioeconomic statuses, urban, rural, you name it. And centenarians come from every pathway in life. This is good news for all of us because it means it's something that is available to all of us. The other thing that we know is that longevity is only 25% genetic. So active centenarians did not win the genetic lottery. They got there because of the lives that they lived. So while we learned that they are all diverse, we've also learned that there are some common threads that they all share. And I just want to share a couple of them with you because, this is something we can all learn from. They live a life worth living. This should inspire all of us. They're not miserable. The active centenarians can't wait to get up. They have to-do list, most of them. They're very excited. They have a passion or a purpose that inspires them. The Japanese call it an ikigai. For Henry, it's taking pictures. It's framing life. For Al, it was hanging around long enough to do something cool with his kids. But all active centenarians have something that they're passionate about. They have the purpose. They're able to adapt and accommodate. We've talked about this. As we get older, we're going to experience a series of setbacks. Active centenarians mourn and move on. They figure out a way to adapt to the loss that they've just suffered, to accommodate to that loss and still find passion in what's left. They are social. There are no hermits among active centenarians. They live with their families. They hang out with other people. And finally, the other thing that I think has inspired me is that almost all active centenarians are poor. They are below the poverty level, but they don't know it. It's been said that not having something, not wanting something, is the same as having it without all of the hassles. And that's pretty much the lifestyle of active centenarians. They don't know they're poor because they find beauty and joy in the moment. Something that we just heard and learned from Henry Diltz. So I guess that's it, guys. That's what's on my mind today is the vision that we can all continue to live lives of passion and purpose, no matter the obstacles that we face.
Thanks for those uplifting words. I didn't know those statistics. It's fascinating, really inspiring for us to keep up.
Laura, you were old enough because you were doing interviews back in 19 that you probably remember Willard Scott. Willard and Smuckers used to give shout outs on the Today Show to people that were 100 years old. They dropped that because there would be no time left in the entire show today. There are so many people turning 100 these days. And I think we can all agree, if you don't have a quality of life at 100, who wants to reach 100? But if you can, and we're in the business of showing people that you can have a quality of life, why not?
And you talked about the importance, Mark, of adaptation, adapting to what's going on, and how relevant can that be now? Maybe this is a dry run to see how we'll all do as we get older, having to do without some of the things that we used to do, having to make do in uncertainty and frustrating and frightening times. So let's all bear down a little bit and use this tool, this computer, to reach out and to be social and to connect with people, to reconnect with people, to make a difference and keep doing the things that make us human until we can get out freely and be who we used to be.
Want less, live more. I love that. Not wanting something is the same as having it without all of the hassles. So that's it. I think that's why we're all into downsizing. Less is more as we get older. All right, guys.
All right.
We'll leave it at that. It was great to see you guys. We'll be back here. We got another great interview for you next Friday. So we'll see you on What's Next 1 week from today.
See you.
Growing older, what's next?